We're here for the first appearance for Jeffrey David Powell. Mr. Powell is charged with 4 warrants, 3 of them being for murder, 1 for attempted murder, and 1 for possession of a weapon during the commission of a violent crime. Mr. Powell has waived his right to be present. Is that correct, Ms. McNeil?
Yes, sir, it is.
And you're ready to proceed here in his behalf?
Yes, sir, I am.
And you are fine with him not being present here today?
That's correct.
And solicitor, you have no objection to him not being present?
As we discussed, Judge, assuming there's a written record of his waiver, and I believe there is, we can make that part of the record that he is waived in writing.
All right. And that writing was included in an email that was sent out to both yourself and myself last night by Ms. McNeil.
Yes.
All right, so Ms. McNeil, in the paperwork I'm going to go over is normally signed by Mr. Powell. What I'll do is go over that paperwork with you and then charge you to then relay that information to him. If there's any issues that come up, please let me know, and I'd be happy to go over it with him at another time.
Yes, sir.
If there's confusion as to what's required of him. All right, the murder carries up to life in prison or death. The attempted murder carries up to 30 years in prison, and the possession of a weapon during the commission of a violent crime carries up to 5 years in prison. It's not what he will receive, it's just the maximums that he could receive if he is found guilty. If bond is set and he posts bond and he does not appear in court, he may be found to have violated his bond. He could have a bench warrant issued for his arrest. He can have further criminal charges brought against him, and he may be tried in his absence. His first court date in General Sessions Court will be set for September the 17th at 9 a.m. He'll have the right to a jury trial, and from here on out he has the right to have an attorney present. You're currently presenting him as part of the Public Defender's Office. If he decides that he no longer wants you to represent him, he has the right to be represented by paid counsel. He also has the right to represent himself. Please make sure he's aware that there are dangers in representing himself, that an attorney may be able to think of things about his case that he would not think of on his own, such as factual or legal issues with the charges against him. If he decides to represent himself, he is responsible for knowing all the rules, procedures, and behavior for court. When bond is posted, he has a responsibility and obligation to be present in court. He also has the responsibility to update the court of whatever his current mailing address is. If the charges against him are dismissed, null prost, or he's found not guilty, the charges will be dismissed, or they'll be expunged. Do you have any questions about what we've gone over?
No, sir.
I will provide over to you his copy of his information of rights and his checklist. He has the right to a preliminary hearing. He has 10 days from today's date to request that hearing. If he does not return his request within 10 days to the address on the request, then he would waive his right to that hearing. And I will provide you with his notice of his right to his preliminary hearing as well.
Thank you.
At this time, I'll be happy to hear from the state with regards to the charges against Mr. Powell.
Yes, sir, Your Honor. Thank you, and please the court. Obviously, these charges are extraordinarily serious. We have 3 deceased victims here. We have another victim who was shot, who's an 8-year-old boy who was able to survive this incident. The victims are Randy Perkins, who's 56 years old. He was my understanding, the uncle or the husband of the biological aunt of the defendant. Megan Lee Gale Dinkins is the first cousin. She was 30 years old at the time of her death, first cousin of the defendant, Mr. Powell. And Shay Nicole Dinkins, Judge, who was the age of 11 when she was killed. Your Honor, all of them were killed via gunshot wound. And Judge, our position, obviously, we know this proceeding today is an arraignment. The law doesn't require or doesn't allow for bond to be set on charges such as this at this stage of the proceeding. Very clearly, though, Mr. Powell is at risk of flight. He's already fled to Florida. We know that as part of this case. He was apprehended in Jacksonville, Florida, trying to escape on this case. Responsibility, and then obviously the seriousness of these charges implicates the danger to the community that this defendant poses. So Judge, at this time, obviously we do ask under the law that bond be granted, and we'll at some point, I'm assuming, have a circuit court hearing to the same effect. The judge, our office will be handling this case, and we're ready to proceed to the fullest extent of the law. Thank you.
Was there a representative for the victims that wished to say something? I will.
Judge, we do have a member of the family here, but at this time she doesn't wish to address the court. We just, the family stands behind what Solicitor Stoneman has stated.
And just so you're aware, this is not the final determination of guilt or innocence of Mr. Powell. As the solicitor stated, the law does not allow me to set bond on the majority of the charges that he has, so his actual bond hearing will be a different date and time in front of a circuit court judge. And at that time, if you have statements you'd like to make with regards to whether Mr. Powell is a danger to the community or a risk of not showing up for court, you can. And I'm sure the solicitor's office and the victim service advocates will be in touch with you to let you know when that would be. Ms. McNeil, is there anything you wanted to say?
No, Your Honor. We, respectfully understand that this court cannot set bond on these charges, and as far as having a bond hearing in the future, it's not our intent to do that at any point in time that's any imminent point in time. So we just thank you for your time and hearing me.
At this time, I'm going to not set bond on any of the charges. The attempted murder and the possession of a weapon during commission of a violent crime will be denied bond to allow all charges to go before a circuit court judge and have one bond set for everything. If there's nothing else, that'll conclude the hearing.